Well, we're well into the second hour of the newspaper review on Citizen TV's Power Breakfast Show. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. We carry on with our discussion. Let me read 2 or 3 of your SMSs. Many thanks indeed to everyone who's talking to us. Somebody here, you don't give us your name or where you're writing from, but you say it's people from within polling centers, secretariat to commissioners, and probably outside influence who messed up elections, but not the organization as a whole. That's the IEBC. Each must bear their cross as a person. One political divide blamed the other. The same was considered favored. Will Kenyans still trust them? And someone here says, now that the servers were tampered with, or alleged at least, can the backup servers be forced open and we reconstruct the truth and declare the results because computers don't forget? In the interest of Kenyans, that would save us all this money, business, exams, anxiety, etc. So someone there saying, can we find another way to handle this? Well, we carry on with our discussion. Of course, the biggest talking point out of yesterday was Chebukati's memo to Chiloba. And to help us understand some of the nitty-gritties around some of the requests from Chebukati to Chiloba, asking him to explain this and that, we're joined by Frederick Wahome. He joins our panel right now. He's a team leader at CFK Associates, which provides cyber risk and technology solutions. He has a background in computer science and cyber security, and is currently the vice chairman of the Kenya Cyber Security and Forensics Association. Quite some titles there, Frederick. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. Indeed,
you've had time to look at these 12 points. I'll only engage you on about 5 of them, and maybe you can help us understand exactly what they mean in layman's terms. The first one is, Chebukati asked Chiloba, explain why, without his consent, that's without Chebukati's consent, his name was used to create an account that was responsible for 9,934 transactions. Talk to us about the process of creating an account and how this could have happened.
Thank you for hosting me. And talking on a general overview on the technology part, technology is good when it's used to empower businesses and even the processes. But if it's not managed well, it can bring issues. One of the issues to do with technology and to make sure that security users are able to know that the system has security and all that. There are principles of security in any technology, and one of it is confidentiality, there is integrity, and there is availability. And if any of these principles is compromised, the whole process becomes an issue. So just having a general overview on that specific document, because we still do not know whether it is generated from IBC or not.
Okay.
But just having a general overview on that, every organization has an information security policy which dictates issues of passwords, who manages the password, the length of the password, the strength and all that.
Okay.
And in this case, we see that if someone could have bypassed these processes and policies and created the alleged password,
yes,
it means that maybe the policy was not enforced.
Okay, so it's possible that that is what happened here. But strange that Chebukati wouldn't know that his name was used to create an account. So it means he wasn't even consulted on the creation of an account from what he's saying?
It's possible,
okay.
Because if the information security policy, which is just a basic document, the most important thing is enforcing the policy.
Okay.
If it has not been enforced, definitely you know that it will be bypassed. Someone will just create a password, and if the administrators themselves don't have access to, don't have integrity, definitely they are going to bypass the policy and misuse the power that they have been given.
Okay, we'll leave that for now. We'll revisit that later. Another question or another query by Chebukati was, explain why the commission decided to use a porous file server for Forms 34B submission instead of using a secure system which would have made it easy for individuals to manage accounts on each other's behalf. Clearly a security risk.
Well,
help us first by understanding what a porous file server system is.
Okay, going by that word they have used, probably they mean it was an insecure file server. And just to understand basically for a normal user, a file transfer protocol is like, it is the technology used to send files within the internet. For instance, if you want someone to bring you a parcel, there are standards that you have to maybe enforce. so that the parcel and the contents of the parcel will not be compromised. And in this case, when they say that it is a porous file server, I had access to the expert report, the ICT expert report, and the file server they were using is called FileZilla. FileZilla is an open source FTP server, and being an open source file server, it is secure, as in it's engineered by very serious men around the world. And looking at that, probably someone could have uploaded the files without the consent, overriding permissions on the system. It's possible because on the back end the server is managed by someone. The system can be very secure, but if the person managing the security and the system itself does not have the integrity, then everything is compromised.
Everything is compromised. Okay, that's just interesting to know in terms of defining. Of course, we're not talking about the merits or demerits of this memo. We're just trying to help you at home understand some of the requests that Chebukati had for Chiloba in terms of explain why this happened and why that happened as well. Another one, Frederick, before I allow my other panelists to come in on this, explain why the Commission used the subject server for day-to-day operations before elections, and why ICT staff used passwords different from IEBC passwords.
Again, we come back to information security policy, and as we said, the basic principles of security is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Of those, they touch on either the process, technology, and the people. So if you look at what we have here, the passwords and all that, still, was the policy enforced? The policy that was there, was it enforced such that an administrator cannot be compromised? Because you can go somewhere, there is an open Wi-Fi, you just connect, and someone gets and steals the password, and they have access, full access to the whole infrastructure. So at the end of it, the issue of enforcing the policies, but the most important thing is the people. The people managing the technology, have they been trained to have the ethics and all that? Okay. Yeah.
So there are four interesting things you've raised: the process, how things are supposed to happen; the policy, what you put in place to ensure that the process follows a particular pattern; the people; and the technology. So whenever you have an issue in an organization, especially in regards to ICT, one of those four may have been compromised.
Yes.
Is what I'm getting from you. The last one is Kim's GPRS and geofencing features were switched off from 5th August 2017. Again, this is in the same memo, Chebukati's memo that was leaked in reference to several questions he had for Chiloba. Let's talk about first defining for us what geofencing features are, something that not many may understand.
On a general overview for someone who may not be understanding the terms and all that, geofencing, for many companies, they provide phones for their employees. And they make sure that you cannot use these phones when you are maybe out of bound of maybe within the organizations. When you move out, probably it loses the internet connection, and probably you will need an administrator to be able to reactivate that for you. So by this we mean, for instance, the kit. This thing was programmed such that if we move away from a specific location, definitely it either loses the connection, the networks, and all that. Yeah. So
so Kim's kits were supposed to be locked specific to certain locations, polling stations, etc.
Yes.
But it appears from what Chebukati is asking, they were not.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And Kim's GPRS?
Probably they meant maybe GPS. Because GPRS is a technology for network connectivity. So for GPS, just like the normal phones, when someone is tracking you and your phone GPS is on, they have the capability to always know that your location, probably depending on Google Earth and Google Map and all that. So in this case, if the GPS is switched off, it means that the location of that specific kit cannot be located. And what does that mean? There is no accountability at the end of it. Because when the GPS is on, it is sent to the server, the location, and later the logs can be pulled out of the server, and we can be able to have a review of the location of these kits later. Yes.
Frederick, making a lot of sense indeed. Mark has been following your words keenly. Let me allow him to weigh in on them right now. Mark, you can come in.
You know, what I'm finding very interesting as our good professional here is talking is we find that the IEBC had people who were not accountable to the process. They were not accountable to the password creation process. They were not accountable to the file transfer process. They were not accountable to keeping and making sure that what was already agreed upon happened. And that the question I have for him is, based on what you've seen, was there a basis for a hacking claim, or was it simply that individuals who had malicious intent had access to that particular server?
Although, Mark, I must say he hasn't had a chance to study the system.
No, he looked at the report in the Supreme Court.
Okay, okay, so Frederick, do you want to try that?
Yeah,
or
probably as a general overview.
Okay.
Because we don't have maybe like those facts and all that. The term hacking probably is, in most cases, it's usually misused, because in this scenario, when a person bypasses a system and makes the system to do something that it was not intended to do, that probably would qualify to be a hacking. In this case, someone can even bypass the network, bypass the GPS, GPRS and all that. But in this case, probably we are seeing highest percentage being maybe a human error part of it. The issue of policy, someone not following up with the policy. You have been told that the password should not be shared, and you go ahead probably to share this password. Already that it cannot qualify to hacking, but at the end of it, it has already compromised the very principles of security, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
So it might not be hacking in the sense of it,
yes,
but it also doesn't feel like it's exactly human error, because human error is like an unintentional mistake. Could this be an intentional infringement of policy, for example? Could you use a word like that? I know Mark is looking for the definition of hacking. You said it's not hacking.
It's also disturbing me here, and he's an expert. So what would you define as hacking in this particular case?
In this particular case, for hacking, for us to be sure that probably there was hacking, there must be a forensic process that should be done. A forensic analysis is a scientific process, which would involve first, do we have genuine logs? How has these logs been gotten? Is there any chain of custody to get these logs? Then from there, when we do the analysis of the logs show us that someone tried to penetrate the server, the database server, the networks and all that. And in this case, quoting the ICT expert report, there are some reports that they did not provide or conclusively, like the pen test report. A pen test report would have provided us with whole information that there was a risk assessment prior to elections. But in this case, having not provided that specific document, we might not have that specific information, because for us on our side, maybe we were not involved to know the technicalities on the technology platform that they deployed.
Honorable Kare, you have a comment?
Well, we are all grappling in the dark, and what we are dealing with is partial information. And with this partial information, we can only start to solve the problem. We would not even have a full picture of the thing. Now, what is important are the principles that are being laid out, and you very well captured them, Wahiga. And you say that in this whole issue, we need to look at whether the people are doing the right thing with the right process, following the right policies, so that the technology works. And the technology here is what has been, the matter of technology is what has been the subject of adjudication even at the Supreme Court. Now, we are going into all this detail because of a political process. And the political process was about going into a presidential contest and being able to determine who got more votes than the other. Now, the biggest problem I've been having with the entire process of adjudication is that no one has come to the table and said that these are 8 million odd people who are said to have voted for the Jubilee presidential candidate, and these are the 6 million odd people who are said to have voted for the NASA candidate, and the contest here being between the 1.4 odd votes that are said to have been acquired more by the Jubilee candidate. That was never contested anywhere in court. It was never adjudicated. And we know that when we go into an election, there will never be a perfect election. So what we always do when we go into an election is try to establish the intent of the voter. And if the intent of the voter is well demonstrated, any other thing that we have seen before the Supreme Court ruling has always been about questioning the people, the processes, even the policy and technology, to see whether any irregularity or any malpractice could have altered the intent of the voter or the presentation of the intent of the voter. So we are going into so much detail, and we will keep putting on layers and layers as a nation, discussing newer layers about this whole process, whereas it all boils down to a political process where we were supposed to establish whether Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta won or whether Raila Odinga won an election. Okay, now I have to allow Honorable Milemba to respond to that.
Oh, thank you. I think even this, if this were the Supreme Court today, I would then read my judgment and still read it the same way Maraga read his, because having listened to this ICT professional, for me, I heard him speak about three things that have marked here: ethics of the people who are managing the system, integrity of the people who are managing the system. He further even used the word credibility of these people. In his explanations, he doubts, and he seems to boil down to the fact that these are the people who lacked those three.
I hope you're not putting words in his mouth.
Oh, thank you. He's here. He can interject. And therefore,
no, I need to defend him.
Go ahead. And therefore, they seem to have interfered with the system and the results as we receive them. What we are dealing with now, and the last question I answered from your side, should Chiloba speak? But I even don't want him now to speak. We have already heard from Chebukati, and what he's saying that my password is used 9,000 times.
Over 9,000 times.
Thank you. Why is it being used? You know, those are the issues. That will bring out the issue of how many possible votes are being interfered with. He's questioning, why is this kit system closed or switched off, so that we cannot know whether this transmission is happening from my home polling station called Esirulo. Maybe this kit is transmitting these results from Nairobi. You know, those are
Wahiga, for me, that has been the biggest.
Let me finish this. Those are the easy questions. I'm speaking for Slasken, the common man, and quoting from Enemy of the People. How is the common man understanding this? So I'm speaking for the common man. It means then these are the real challenges that will bring the vote difference.
Aman does not get more common than myself, and I think I'm also a common one who can speak on myself.
10 seconds
and that's what my biggest contest has been. The biggest contest is when we interrogate this system, when we interrogate all these processes, when we interrogate all these people, it needs to boil down to something. And the something for me is whether this election was won fairly and by what margin. And none of these arguments are talking to that fact. And I think, Waigihiga, that must be one of the reasons why you have HPB with us. Because I think we need a more divine intervention here as a country. We might be wanting to have a divine intervention, because when we go into these technical experts coming in here, and they're not telling us why the difference between the 1.4 million votes and not contesting them, even as they talk about the technology, then we are not talking about an election. We are going into the detail of
yet, Honorable Kiarie, in a letter by Raphael Tuju, your Secretary General, to IBC, they raised concerns about certain staff within the IBC and referenced even NASA's part of NASA's petition, meaning that now it seems that your party also has certain questions.
Then the biggest...
If that is the case, then shouldn't they also demand that the process be credible for all? Just a final declaration?
The process has to be credible for all. And for it to be credible for all, that's why the crafters of this constitution, and we the people of Kenya who gave ourselves the constitution, demanded that there should be a body called IEBC. And we need to put the I into that IEBC, an independent body, that even if they're going to listen to Mheshimiwa here, or listen to myself, ultimately, IEBC has to make the final decision regarding this election because they are the constitutionally mandated body. They need to act independently.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. I really want to take more closing comments, but I cannot because I have Chris Van. I'm on standby. Honorable Milemba, thank you so much. I know you have so much more you want to say. We'll call you back again. Honorable Kiarie, thank you so much. Mark Bichachi. Frederick Wahome, glad to have you also just to help us understand some of these concepts. That's how we wrap up this part of the Power Breakfast Show. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. Thank you so much to everyone who took time to write to us, 22422, and talk to us on social media as well. We've tried to go through some of